So I want you to take a good look at this photograph, because this is the picture of a young man that was shot just recently by police 60 times. His name is Jayland Walker. There is a protest that is going on in Akron, Ohio because of this. The release of the video just came out. And so the people of Akron, Ohio, and the locals are protesting because they are outraged because of this particular killing event that took place. And this article goes into a little more detail as to why the people in Akron, Ohio are very outraged by what has occurred. So, Jayland Walker was shot at least 60 times in a body cam footage that had been released by the Akron, Ohio police. So it goes on in the article out of the people to say that I won't mince words, but the video you're about to watch is very heartbreaking. So that's the Akron, Ohio mayor, who goes by the name of Dan Horrigan. He said this at a press conference about the fatal shooting. So I'm not going to show the shooting. It has been released, so if you want to view the footage, you can. I'm just really going over the article. It's just sad that we have another African American or a black person that is gunned down once again by police. And I did read most of the article, and it looks as though that this young man didn't have any prior history of arrest, or at least that's what this article had stated from what I read, and that there was no evidence that he was going to do any harm. And I believe that's where the outrage comes in at, is that yet again, another innocent person has been gunned down by police based on possible racial profiling. Um, so that's what makes this story very troubling, because it has become a pattern that we have all too often seen again and again. So I'm trying to see if I can clear some of these windows, and I'm talking as I'm trying to clear the windows, because I had several articles that popped up about this incident, and there's a lot of ads here. So it's showing his face, and he looks pretty young. He doesn't look um, that old at all. He actually, it says that he's 25 years old. So Jayland Walker, he was shot more actually than 60 times on the night of his death in Akron, Ohio. The police chief, Steve Milet, told reporters this was Sunday. So speaking at a news conference, this was alongside Mayor Dan Horrigan. Milet also released the disturbing body cam footage that people have now witnessed. A majority of people have been looking at it. So from the June 27th shooting, it's showing a group of police officers that were chasing, and then they fired at Walker, who he's 25 years of age. It says that he died at the scene, and all of the 8 officers involved in the shooting are now on administrational leave, and the death is being investigated by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations. And so it basically says what I started off saying in the article when I started reading, where it said, I won't mince my words or mince words. The video you're about to see or you're about to watch is heartbreaking. So that was by the mayor Horrigan. And he was saying this in the middle of a press conference. This was on a Sunday. So the prefacing of the body cam footage. So Chief Milet also, he addressed Walker's family directly in an attempt to calm the tense atmosphere in Akron, Ohio, which has witnessed multiple demonstrations since the death of Walker had been announced. And so LeBron James, those of you that know, he also he stated that he prays for Akron, Ohio, following the shooting death of Jayland Walker, and because he grew up in that city. So you've asked for peace in an environment that is ripe for aggression and violence, Milet said on Sunday. So if Jayland reflects the character of this family, you've raised a good son, and again, my deepest condolences and sympathies. So LeBron James, who was born and raised in Akron, Ohio, or in Akron, also shared his support for the city. This was on Twitter on Sunday when the whole thing had been announced. And so the LA Laker player, who was 37, wrote, "I pray for my city today," because he's very active in what has happened. So I guess it goes into detail about this whole incident and how it had unfolded. So a chase then had ensued. This was what happened. So according to the APD, a release that the fatal incident took place at approximately 12:30 a.m. on a Monday. This was June the 27th, after police officers attempted to stop a vehicle operated by Walker for an unspecified traffic violation. So a chase had then ensued, and the officers reported that a firearm had been discharged from the suspect's vehicle, and the release had added this. And so it goes on to say that after several minutes, and so you can see a still photo of the protests that followed thereafter, people got word of what had took place. So it says Walker, he slowed down the vehicle and exited the moving vehicle, or he slowed down and then exited the vehicle, and he was fleeing on foot into a nearby parking lot. And so the Akron PD continued, adding that the officer said Walker's actions caused them to perceive that he posed a deadly threat to them before they had opened fire. So Walker was pronounced dead on the scene, the release had added. So speaking to reporters Sunday, Chief Milet also stated that the officers involved would now have to fully account for every second of their actions on that night that was in question. So when an officer makes a most critical decision in his or her life as a police officer, it doesn't matter where in the country this happens, when they make that most critical decision to point their firearm at another human being and pull the trigger, they've got to be ready to explain why they did what they did, Milet said. So they need to be able to articulate what specific threats they were facing, and that goes for every round that goes down the barrel of their gun. So on Sunday, Bobby DeCello, a lawyer for Walker's family, told New York Times that he had never seen anything remotely close to the Akron video in his 22 years of being a trial lawyer. So this is going to be quite a deal here. It looks like this is something that's not going to go away anytime soon, is what it's looking like. So Um, yeah, it's hard to see these things, these articles like this, because it just really, it's sad because what we're seeing here is a repeat of these vicious killings. So I would say this is vicious to me. So the chase, they detailed the incident that took place at approximately 12:30 a.m. on Monday, and after officers attempted to stop the vehicle operated by Walker for an unspecified traffic violation. According to the release, a chase had ensued. The officers reported that the firearm was discharged from the suspect's vehicle, and the chase continued for several minutes until Walker slowed down and exited the vehicle, fleeing on foot into a nearby parking lot. And officers said that Walker's actions caused them to perceive that he had posed a deadly threat to them before they opened fire. So Walker was pronounced dead on the scene of the incident. And so I don't know if you saw the photograph. This was who he was when he was alive. And he was 25 years old. So the city has since handed the case over to the Ohio Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigations after they assisted the APD Major Crimes Unit in handling this initial investigation. So Chief Milet said that on Sunday the APD does not know the exact number of rounds that were fired, although the experts that number to be high pending investigation. But right now we just don't know, he added. So Bobby DeCello, the lawyer for Walker's family, he had told them from the New York Times that the 8 officers that were fired more than 90 times after attempting to subdue him with stun guns. They attempted to subdue him with stun guns, and his team also reviewed an initial autopsy on Friday, noting that Walker, he was struck at least 60 times. And I believe this was by the gunfire. So this is, it looks like LeBron James was on Twitter, and you can see his comment, "Pray for my city today." So DeCello, who is the lawyer for the family, he said that after reviewing the footage, he had found no evidence that Walker, who had no criminal record, did anything to the officers that would put them in fear and require them to shoot and shoot as many times as they did as well. So he added that the parking lot Walker ran to was large and vacant with no place to hide. So that was the other thing. So although a gun, it mentions, I'm looking at it, I'm trying to get close enough to it here. Okay. It says it was found, although a gun was found in the car. It says Walker was not carrying it at the time that he was shot. So, as for the reports that Walker shot at police, the back windshield was not broken, and there was no mention of him pointing the gun outside his window. So APD noted on the footage what appeared to be a muzzle flash and what sounded like a gunshot near the beginning of the pursuit, adding that they found a shell casing at the spot consistent with the type of gun in Walker's car. Okay, so that's pretty much on that. And so LeBron James, who was born and raised in Akron, Ohio, has since shared his support for the city on Twitter. And LA Laker, 37 years old, wrote, "I pray for my city as the protest has unfolded across the city, including a rally immediately following Sunday's conference. Horrigan urged protesters to remain peaceful, but you're going to have to do one of the most difficult things that I can ever ask anyone to do, and that is to please be patient and let attorney generals do their work." This is what he said. So Horrigan previously canceled this weekend's Independence celebration, explaining that it's not the time for a city-led celebration. And this was in there's other articles just flying in. So it says this also. So the celebrations, they didn't have that out there. So explaining that it's not the time for a city-led celebration in the statement. So just looking at this. So protests erupt in Akron, Ohio after a body cam footage is showing the black man shooting death released. And so that's a whole nother article underneath the article that I'm looking at. So this situation is really bad. Anytime you have an article underneath that follows the article and it's the same incident. So it must be really bad. There must be high tensions out there in Akron, Ohio. From what I was hearing, that the protests, they started off peaceful, and then later it began to get a little bit more chaotic, I guess because of the heightened frustration and tension behind the fact that this guy was shot so many times and he's now dead. And so people have a lot of questions as to why did they shoot him this many times. And you have 8 officers to this one black man. So we shall see how the story unfolds. Right now, the videos have been circulating like all over social media, and people are trying to find out what is the reason for all of the shooting of this one man. Now, I know this is really crazy, these 2 separate incidences, but you recently had Independence Day parade in Highland Park, Illinois, and there was a young man whom he was on the rooftop of a business and he shot down into the crowd, and he had an AR-15 assault style type weapon, and he legally purchased it, and they have actually apprehended this person in question, and there's not a scratch on him. Although it was said the numbers could be more. Earlier, what I saw, they said there were 6 that were killed. One was an infant that was in critical condition, and then that was 31 people that had gun wounds or injuries in somewhat of the shooting. But this man, once they apprehended him, knowingly that he was a person that lived in the community. He also had a social media post showing violent videos, and he was allowed to do that. And he actually carried out a mass shooting event. And when they apprehended him, he didn't get not a scratch on him. He wasn't gunned down. He wasn't killed like this man here that we're looking at in Akron, Ohio. So I just wanted to add that in there so you can see the correlation of this thing here. That is the reason why you have people so upset trying to, piece together what is the reason for this. I will just be honest, in my opinion, and I will say this: he's black. There's your answer. He's black. What's the difference? The other guy that was apprehended in the Highland Park mass shooting, he's white, or he's not black, or that I seen from the pictures of him, and not a scratch was put on him, and he wasn't even charged just yet. He might be now, of course. They are investigating a motive as to why he went up on the rooftop and shot at all those people in the middle of a family's supposedly a fair parade of independence. And when they did find him, they found him in the vehicle, and I believe they also they said that they have him in custody, and so they're investigating right now the whole situation, the scenario, and several people ID'd him, I suppose, said that they saw him or a person as that the one they apprehended. So now they're trying to investigate what that whole thing was about. And then shortly thereafter, now you have these people protesting. Here, this guy, they're trying to catch him on a traffic stop. They claim he had a gun and he fired it, but the back windshield, there was no bullet holes. They found a gun in the car, they claim. The investigators on this case, yet this guy was shot at 60 times, or more than 60 times is what I just read. More than 60 times he was shot at, and there's an autopsy on this guy, has no prior history of incident. And so this is a hearsay thing as well. So we'll see how these stories unfold. This is very troubling. So here you have it, and we shall see how this whole thing unfolds. It just, the sad thing about this is that we've seen patterns with this incident in particular all too often, and we want to know why.